A hotel maid answered a ringing phone in perfect Italian, not realizing the guest listening was a mafia boss. He went cold. She spoke a dialect only his enemies used. She thought it was just a phone call. He thought it was betrayal. What happened next trapped them both in a dangerous game neither expected. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mia pressed her ear against the door of Suite 1207, her cleaning cart blocking half the hallway. 3 sharp rings, a pause, then 3 more. She'd been taught to never enter when guests were inside, but her supervisor's voice echoed in her head. If they don't answer the door after 5 minutes, go in. We can't have complaints about dirty rooms. She knocked again. Housekeeping. Nothing. With a deep breath, Mia slid her keycard through the slot. The lock clicked green. She pushed the door open slowly, calling out as she entered the massive luxury suite. The phone shrieked again from somewhere inside. Hello? Housekeeping. Mia's voice bounced off marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Chicago's skyline. The suite was empty, or seemed to be. A half-drunk glass of whiskey sat on the coffee table. A men's jacket hung over a chair. Someone was staying here. The phone rang again, louder now. It sat on the desk near the window, vibrating with each ring. Mia hesitated. She shouldn't answer a guest's phone. That was rule number 1. But what if it was an emergency? What if it was the front desk trying to reach the guest? On the 7th ring, she grabbed it. Hello. A man's voice erupted in rapid Italian. Dove diavolo say?
Abbiamo un problema. I rossi sanno del carico.
Mia's breath caught. Her grandmother's voice flooded back. Sunday dinners in their cramped Brooklyn apartment, the old woman switching between English and the thick Sicilian dialect she'd brought from the old country. Mia had absorbed it without trying, the way children do. Without thinking, she responded in the same dialect.
Mi dispiace, signore. Non è qui. Sono solo la cameriera. I'm sorry, sir.
He's not here. I'm just the maid. The man on the other end went silent. Then, who is this? Who are you? Before Mia could answer, she heard movement behind her. She spun around. A man stood in the bedroom doorway, and everything about him screamed danger. He was in his late 30s, wearing an expensive black shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing tattoos that snaked up his forearms. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. But it was his eyes that made Mia's stomach drop, cold, calculating, and currently fixed on her like a predator spotting prey. Hang up, he said quietly. Mia's hand trembled as she placed the phone back in its cradle. The man walked toward her with measured steps. He wasn't tall, maybe 5'10", but he moved like someone who'd never had to prove himself, because everyone already knew what he was capable of. You speak Sicilian, he said. It wasn't a question. My grandmother. What's your name?
Mia.
Mia Lawson. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Mia Lawson, he repeated it slowly, like he was memorizing it. And where exactly did your grandmother learn to speak the dialect of the Barone family? Mia's mind raced. The Barone family? I don't know what that is. She was from Corleone. She came here in 1962. The man held up a hand, silencing her. He pulled out his phone and typed something, never taking his eyes off her. Within seconds, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and something shifted in his expression. Antonio, he called out. The door to the suite swung open, and 2 large men in dark suits entered. They looked at Mia, then at their boss, waiting for orders. Take her to the car.
What?
No. Mia backed up, bumping into the desk. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just cleaning. You answered my phone. You spoke in a dialect that only 3 families in this city know. And you just happened to be cleaning my room at this exact moment. The man stepped closer. I don't believe in coincidences, Mia Lawson. One of the guards moved toward her. Panic shot through Mia's chest. Please, I swear I don't know what you're talking about. I work here. Check with the hotel. I've been here for 2 years. I just answered the phone because it wouldn't stop ringing. The man studied her face for a long moment. She could see him weighing something, calculating odds in his head like a chess player, looking 3 moves ahead. "What did the man on the phone say to you?" Mia swallowed hard. He said, "Where the hell are you? We have a problem. The Rossi family knows about the shipment." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "And you understood all of that?" "Yes, but I don't know what it means. I don't know who the Rossi family is." The man pulled out his phone again and made a call. "Clear the floor." Now he hung up and looked at his men. "Take her to the penthouse. Don't let her out of your sight. If she tries to run, don't hurt her, but don't let her leave." "Please," Mia's voice broke. "I have a son. He's only 8 years old. I'm supposed to pick him up from school in 3 hours." For the first time, something flickered across the man's face. Not sympathy exactly, but a flash of something human beneath the ice. "You'll see your son," he said. "But first, you're going to tell me everything about your grandmother, how you learned that dialect, and who sent you to clean my room today." He moved to the door, then paused. "My name is Luca Vitali, and if you're smart, Mia Lawson, you'll start praying that you're telling me the truth." The guards moved toward her, and Mia realized with horror that her life had just been turned upside down, all because she'd answered a ringing phone. The car ride lasted 40 minutes, but it felt like hours. Mia sat squeezed between the 2 guards in the back of a black SUV, her mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. She tried to text her son's school, but one of the guards had taken her phone. "Please," she said for the 10th time. "My son, he'll be waiting for me. He's just a kid." The guard on her left, a man with a scar across his eyebrow, finally spoke. "Boss said you'll see him. Boss keeps his word."
"But when?"
"I need to call the school. Tell them someone else is picking him up." "Already handled." Luca's voice came from the front passenger seat. He didn't turn around. "I had someone call the school. Said you had a family emergency. Your neighbor, Mrs. Chun, is picking him up." Mia's blood ran cold. "How do you know about Mrs. Chun?" Now Luca did turn around, and his eyes held a warning. "I know everything about you now, Mia. Your apartment on West Division Street. Your son Tyler's school. Your shifts at the hotel. Your bank account balance, which tells me you're not being paid by anyone to spy on me." He paused. "But that doesn't mean I trust you." The SUV pulled up to a massive estate in the suburbs, hidden behind tall iron gates and thick trees. The mansion looked like something out of a movie, 3 stories of stone and glass, with manicured lawns and a fountain in the circular driveway. "Welcome to your new workplace," Luca said as the car stopped. Mia was escorted through the front doors into a grand foyer with marble floors and a crystal chandelier. Several men in suits stood around, and all of them stopped to stare at her. Their expressions ranged from suspicious to openly hostile. An older man with silver hair and cold blue eyes approached Luca. "This is her? This is her. You brought a stranger into your home? Luca, this is insane. She could be." "I know what she could be, Marco." Luca's voice was sharp. "Which is why she's staying here, where I can watch her." Marco looked at Mia like she was a bomb about to explode. "And if she's working for the Branas? If she reports everything she sees here back to them? Then we'll know soon enough." Luca turned to Mia. "You're going to work for me now. Cooking, cleaning, whatever I need. You'll live here, in the staff quarters. You'll see your son on weekends, supervised. Try to contact anyone outside this house, and things get complicated. Understand?" Mia's throat tightened. "You can't just kidnap me. I have rights." "You answered a phone call that contained classified information about my business," Luca interrupted. "You understood a dialect that connects you to my enemies. From where I'm standing, you're either a spy or a massive security risk. Either way, you're staying until I figure out which one inch." A woman in her 50s with kind eyes stepped forward. "I'm Rosa. I run the household staff. Come on, I'll show you your room." Mia followed Rosa through a maze of hallways, aware that every person they passed watched her with suspicion. 2 maids whispered each other in Spanish, and she caught the word espía, spy. Her room was small but clean, with a single bed, a dresser, and a window that looked out onto the gardens. Rosa gestured to a uniform laid out on the bed, black pants, and a white button-up shirt.
Change into this.
Mr. Vitali wants you to start immediately. Rose's voice softened. Listen, I don't know what you did or didn't do, but my advice?
Keep your head down. Don't talk to the other staff.
Don't ask questions. Just your job and stay out of the way. I didn't do anything, Mia whispered. I swear. Rose's expression was unreadable. That's what they all say, honey. 20 minutes later, Mia found herself in Luca's study, dusting shelves while he sat at his desk, working on his laptop. He hadn't said a word to her since she entered, but she could feel his eyes on her every few minutes, watching her movements. The door opened and Marco entered. The Baroness are asking for a meeting. They say it's urgent. Tell them I'll consider it. Luca, if she's one of theirs. She's not. Luca's voice was firm. I had her background checked. She's nobody. Minimum wage worker, single mother, no connections to any families. Her grandmother died 6 years ago. Then why does she speak? That's what I'm figuring out. Luca finally looked directly at Mia. Come here. Mia's hands shook as she approached his desk. Luca pulled out a piece of paper and slid it toward her. It was covered in Italian phrases. Translate these. Out loud. Mia read through them slowly, translating each one. They were simple phrases, directions, greetings, requests. When she finished, Luca exchanged a look with Marco. She's fluent, Marco said quietly. Natural accent. Not learned from a book. I know. Luca leaned back in his chair. Which means either she's telling the truth about her grandmother, or someone trained her very, very well. He looked at Mia. I'm going to test you every day. Different phrases, different situations. If you're a plant, you'll slip eventually. They always do. And if I don't slip? Mia asked, her voice trembling. How long do I have to stay here? Luca's expression was unreadable. Until I'm certain you're not a threat to my family. Marco snorted. That could be never. As Mia was led back to her room that night, she passed a large portrait on the wall, a beautiful woman with dark hair and a sad smile. Below it, a small plaque read, Maria Vitali, beloved wife and mother. That's the boss's wife, one of the guards muttered. Died 3 years ago. He hasn't been the same since. Mia stared at the portrait, and for the first time, she saw Luca Vitali not as a monster, but as a man haunted by loss and determined never to be vulnerable again. Mia had been at the Vitali mansion for 3 days when she first saw Isabella Moretti. The woman swept into the dining room like she owned it, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than Mia made in 6 months. She was stunning, tall, with long dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. Luca, darling, Isabella purred, sliding into the chair next to him at breakfast. She barely glanced at Mia, who was refilling water glasses. I heard the most interesting rumor. Something about a new maid. Luca didn't look up from his newspaper. Isabella, I didn't know you were coming by. Well, I had to see for myself. Isabella's eyes finally landed on Mia, and they were cold as ice. This is her? The one everyone's talking about. Everyone should mind their own business, Luca said flatly. Isabella laughed, but there was no warmth in it. Oh, Luca. You bring a strange woman into your home, into your son's home, and expect people not to talk. She turned to Mia. What's your name, sweetie? Mia, ma'am. Ma'am, Isabella smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. How polite. Tell me, Mia, how does a simple hotel maid end up living in one of Chicago's most powerful homes? Isabella, Luca's voice carried a warning. I'm just curious, darling. After all, we should know who's around Matteo, shouldn't we? Isabella reached for her coffee cup, and Mia noticed the massive diamond ring on her finger and the possessive way she touched Luca's arm. Rosa appeared in the doorway. Mia, you're needed upstairs. Mia escaped gratefully, but she could feel Isabella's eyes burning into her back. That afternoon, Mia was folding laundry in the staff room when 2 guards burst in, Marco right behind them. Empty your pockets, Marco demanded. Mia's heart jumped.
What? Why?
Just do it. With shaking hands, Mia pulled out her pockets. A tissue, a hair tie, nothing else. I don't understand. Search her room, Marco ordered. Terror shot through Mia. What's going on? I didn't do anything. The guards marched her to her small room, where they proceeded to tear through her belongings. Mia watched helplessly as they dumped out her drawers, checked under the mattress, rifled through the closet. One of them reached into the dresser's bottom drawer, the one Mia barely used, and pulled out a velvet jewelry box. Mia's blood turned to ice. That's not mine. The guard opened it, revealing an expensive diamond bracelet nestled inside. Not yours. Marco's voice was deadly quiet. Then how did it get in your drawer? I don't know. I've never seen that before. Mia's voice rose in panic. Someone put it there. I swear, I didn't steal anything. That bracelet belongs to Mrs. Vitali, Marco said. Luca's late wife. It's been missing from the master bedroom for 2 days. The room started spinning. Mia grabbed the dresser to steady herself.
No.
No, I would never. I didn't even know it existed. I've never been in the master bedroom. Convenient story. Marco grabbed her arm. Let's see what the boss has to say about this. They dragged her downstairs to Luca's office, where he was on the phone. He took one look at Mia's tear-stained face and the jewelry box in Marco's hand, and ended his call immediately. Explain. Marco placed the box on the desk. Found this in her room. It's Maria's diamond bracelet. The one that went missing 3 days ago, right around the time she arrived. Luca's eyes locked onto Mia, and she saw something dangerous flash across his face. He opened the box slowly, staring at the bracelet like it was a ghost. I didn't take it, Mia said, her voice breaking. Mr. Vitali, I swear on my son's life, I have never been in your bedroom. I've never even been on the 3rd floor. Someone is setting me up. Who would set you up? Marco demanded. You've been here 3 days. Who even knows you exist? I don't know, but I'm telling the truth. Tears streamed down Mia's face.
Please.
I'm not a thief. I would never steal from anyone, especially not from someone's dead wife. Luca stood slowly and walked around the desk until he was inches from Mia. He studied her face with such intensity that she wanted to look away, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. You're terrified, he said quietly. Of course I'm terrified. You think I stole from you. But not guilty, Luca tilted his head. I've seen guilty people, Mia. I've interrogated dozens of them. They look different than you do right now, he turned to Marco. Who found the bracelet? Isabella called me. Said she had a feeling something was off, so she asked me to search the staff rooms. Something flickered in Luca's eyes. Isabella suggested the search. She was trying to help. Get out, Marco. Luca, she had the bracelet. I said get out. Marco left, muttering under his breath. Luca walked back to his desk and picked up the jewelry box, examining it closely. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out a small photo, Maria wearing the same bracelet. My wife loved this piece, he said softly. She wore it on our wedding day. He looked at Mia. If I find out you took this, you'll wish I'd just called the police. I didn't take it, Mia whispered. Lucas stared at her for a long moment. Then, inexplicably, he placed the bracelet back in the box and locked it in his desk drawer. Go back to work. Mia blinked. That's it. That's it. For now. You believe me? I didn't say that. Luca's expression was unreadable. But something about this doesn't add up. And I don't like being played. He leaned against his desk. Someone wanted me to find this. The question is why. As Mia left the office on shaking legs, she passed Isabella in the hallway. The woman's face was a mask of fury. You're still here, Isabella said coldly. Yes, ma'am. Isabella stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Enjoy it while it lasts, Maid. Luca's just toying with you. He'll figure out what you are eventually. And when he does, I'll make sure you disappear. Mia hurried away, but she could feel Isabella's hatred following her like a shadow. Inside his office, Luca stood at the window, watching Mia cross the garden below. Marco was right, this made no sense. But Luca hadn't survived this long by ignoring his instincts. and his instincts told him that Mia Lawson was innocent, which meant someone in his house was trying very hard to make him think otherwise. The next morning, Mia was dusting the library when she heard a sound that made her freeze, a child crying. She followed the soft sobs to a reading nook by the window, where a small boy sat curled up with his knees to his chest. He had dark hair like his father and was wearing a private school uniform. His face was buried in his arms. Mia's mother instincts kicked in immediately. "Hey, sweetheart. Are you okay?" The boy's head snapped up, revealing red-rimmed brown eyes. He looked about Tyler's age, maybe a little older. He stared at her suspiciously. "Who are you?" "I'm Mia. I work here." She took a cautious step closer. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Go away." But he didn't sound angry. He sounded heartbroken. Mia thought of Tyler, how he'd cried for weeks after his father left them. She sat down on the floor a few feet away from the boy, not too close, giving him space. "You know, when I'm sad, sometimes it helps to talk about it," she said gently. "But if you don't want to, that's okay too. We can just sit here." The boy wiped his eyes roughly. "I got in trouble at school." "What happened?" "We had to draw pictures of our families for art class." His voice cracked. "I drew me and Dad. The teacher asked where my mom was. Everyone started laughing when I said she was dead." Mia's heart broke. "Oh, honey, those kids are idiots." The boy's eyes widened slightly, probably shocked to hear an adult call other kids idiots. "I'm serious," Mia continued. "Only idiots laugh at something like that. I bet they felt stupid about it later." "They didn't act like it." "Well, then they're double idiots." Mia tilted her head. "What's your name?" "Matteo." "That's a strong name."
Italian, right?
"It means gift from God." Matteo blinked. "How do you know that?" "My grandmother taught me." She knew all about Italian names. Mia smiled softly. "She used to say that names have power. They tell you who you're supposed to be." "Do you really think that?" "Sometimes. My name means mine or bitter, which is kind of a bummer. But I decided it means strong instead, because I had to be strong for my son." Matteo sat up a little straighter. "You have a son?"
Yeah.
"His name's Tyler. He's 8-inch. I'm 9. Matteo said, a hint of pride in his voice. "Does your son have a dad?" "Not anymore. He left us when Tyler was a baby." Matteo processed this. "So you're sad too sometimes?"
Yeah, buddy.
"I am." Mia met his eyes. "But you know what helps? When I remember the good stuff. Like, I bet your mom was pretty amazing, huh?" For the first time, Matteo's expression softened. "She was the best. She made these chocolate chip cookies that were so good. And she always knew when I had a bad day, even if I didn't say anything. She'd just know." "She sounds wonderful. Do you look like her?" "Dad says I have her smile." Matteo's face fell again. "But I don't smile much anymore." "That's okay. You smile when you're ready." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Mia remembered something and pulled a slightly squashed granola bar from her pocket. "Want half?" "I'm not supposed to eat on duty, but I get hungry." Matteo actually cracked the tiniest smile. "You're gonna get in trouble." "What are they gonna do, fire me?" Mia broke the bar in half and handed him a piece. "Between you and me, I think I'm already in enough trouble around here." "Because you speak Italian?" So the staff had been talking. "Something like that. Can you teach me some words?" "Like what?" "Bad words." Matteo's eyes gleamed with mischief for just a second. Mia laughed out loud. "Oh, absolutely not. Your dad would kill me." "Come on, just one." "No way, kid." "I value my life." But she was grinning, and so was Matteo, a real, genuine smile. "You're weird," Matteo said, but he said it like it was a good thing. "Yeah, I get that a lot." Mia stood up and offered him her hand. "Come on. Let's get you cleaned up before someone sees you've been crying." 9-year-old boys have reputations to protect. Matteo took her hand and let her pull him up. "You're nicer than the other people who work here. They all act scared of my dad." "Well, your dad is pretty scary." "Yeah, but he's not mean." "Not really. He's just
sad."
Like me. The simple honesty in those words made Mia's throat tight. Neither of them noticed Lucas standing in the library doorway, watching them. He'd come looking for Matteo after Rosa told him the boy had come home from school upset. But he'd stopped when he heard voices, his son's voice, lighter than it had been in months. And then he'd watched Mia make his son smile. Matteo hadn't smiled, not like that, open and genuine, since Maria died 3 years ago. Luca had tried everything. Therapists, new activities, time, patience. Nothing worked. The light had gone out of his son's eyes, and Luca had begun to believe it might never come back. But here was this woman, this stranger, who could be a spy or a plant, making his son laugh over a granola bar and bad Italian words. Marco appeared beside Luca, keeping his voice low. "You see what I see?" "Yeah," Luca said quietly. "She's good. If she's playing us, she's very, very good." "I know. So, what do we do?" Luca watched Mia ruffle Matteo's hair, his son ducking away but smiling. "We watch her closer. If she's using my son to get to me, I'll know. And if she's not..." Luca didn't answer. He couldn't answer. Because if Mia Lawson wasn't playing them, if she was genuinely this kind, this real, then she was more dangerous than any spy could ever be. She was someone his broken family might actually need. And Luca Vitali had learned the hard way that needing someone only led to pain. Frank Morrison had been managing the apartment building on West Division Street for 12 years, and in all that time, he'd made it a point to stay out of other people's business. But standing in the parking garage at midnight with 3 men blocking his car, he realized his policy of neutrality was about to end. "Mr. Morrison," the man in the center said. He was young, maybe 30, with slick back hair and a suit that probably cost more than Frank's car. "We need to have a conversation about one of your tenants." Frank's hands tightened on his briefcase. "I don't discuss my tenants with anyone. Privacy laws." "Let me make something clear," the man interrupted, stepping closer. "We're not cops. We don't care about your privacy laws. We care about Mia Lawson." Frank's stomach dropped. He'd noticed Mia hadn't been home in days. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chun, had been picking up her mail, taking care of her kid. "I don't know where she is," Frank said carefully. "But you know who she's with." The man pulled out his phone and showed Frank a photo. Mia standing in front of a massive mansion, talking to a guard. "Recognize this place?" Frank's throat went dry. He'd lived in Chicago long enough to know certain addresses, certain names you didn't mention out loud. "Look, I don't want any trouble." Too late for that, another man moved behind Frank, cutting off his escape route. "Mia Lawson is working for Luca Vitali. We need to know why. What's her connection to him? What's she doing there?" "I don't know. She's just a tenant. She works at a hotel downtown. She's got a kid. She pays her rent on time. That's all I know." The first man smiled, but it was the kind of smile that made Frank's blood run cold. "See, that's where you're wrong, Mr. Morrison. You're her landlord. You have access to her apartment, her mail, her phone records if we need them." He leaned in closer. "You're going to help us figure out what makes Mia Lawson so special that Luca Vitali keeps her in his home." "I can't spy on my tenants." "You can and you will," the man's voice dropped to a whisper. "Unless you want us to have a conversation with your daughter. Emily, right? Freshman at Northwestern? Lives in that cute little dorm on Campus Drive." Frank felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "You leave my daughter alone." "That's entirely up to you, Mr. Morrison." The man straightened his tie. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go through Mia's apartment. Look for anything, letters, photos, documents, anything that tells us who she really is. You're going to talk to her neighbors. Find out everything you can about her background, her family, her connections. And if I refuse..." The third man, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was rough, like gravel. "Then Emily has a very unfortunate accident walking home from class one night. These things happen in college towns." Frank's hands trembled. "Who are you people?" "Let's just say we're business associates of the Barone family. And Luca Vitali has something that belongs to us. Or someone who can tell us how to get it." The leader pulled out a business card and forced it into Frank's hand. You have 48 hours to find out everything you can about Mia Lawson. Call this number when you have something useful. And if I don't find anything, then you better hope you're a very convincing liar, Mr. Morrison. Because if we think you're holding out on us, he let the threat hang in the air. They left Frank standing alone in the parking garage, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. He looked at the business card, just a phone number, nothing else. He thought about calling the police, but what would he say? He had no proof, no names, just threats in a parking garage. And if the Barone family was involved, if that name meant what he thought it meant, the police might not be able to help anyway. Frank drove home in a daze. When he got to his apartment, he poured himself a drink with shaking hands and stared at his phone. He pulled up Emily's Instagram. Her latest post showed her smiling with friends at a coffee shop. Caption: late night study session. She looked so happy, so safe. He couldn't let anything happen to her. With a heavy heart, Frank pulled out his master key to the building. At 2 a.m., he crept down to Mia's apartment on the 3rd floor. His hands shook as he unlocked her door. The apartment was small and tidy, exactly as he'd expect from someone like Mia. A couch with a throw blanket. Photos of her and Tyler on the walls, smiling at the beach, at a park, at his birthday party. A bookshelf filled with children's books and a few paperback novels. Frank rifled through her drawers, hating himself with every second. He found bills, all paid on time. School papers from Tyler's backpack. A box of old photos in the closet. Mia as a child with an elderly woman he assumed was her grandmother. Nothing. No secret documents, no mysterious contacts, no evidence of anything except a normal single mother trying to get by. He checked her mail on the kitchen counter. Electric bill. Credit card offer. A postcard from Tyler's school about parent-teacher conferences. Frank sat on her couch, his head in his hands. Mia Lawson was nobody. Just an ordinary woman in an extraordinary situation. But the Baroness didn't care about that. They wanted information, and they wanted it now. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Tick-tock, Mr. Morrison. Your daughter just left the library. Walking home alone. Dark out tonight." Frank's blood turned to ice. He looked at the text again, and his hands started shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. They were watching Emily right now. He had no choice. Frank began taking photos of everything in Mia's apartment. The pictures on the walls, the documents in her drawers, even the titles of books on her shelf. He sent them to the number with a message. "This is everything. She's nobody. Just a regular person." The response came immediately. "Keep digging. There has to be more. Vitaly doesn't keep regular people in his house. Find the connection, or Emily gets hurt." Frank closed his eyes and tried not to cry. He'd just betrayed an innocent woman to save his daughter. And somewhere in that mansion across town, Mia had no idea that her past was being torn apart by strangers, or that she'd just become the target of a war she didn't even know she was fighting. Lucas stood in his study at midnight, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at a folder on his desk. Inside were surveillance photos of Mia, at the hotel where she used to work, picking up her son from school, grocery shopping. Every mundane detail of her life for the past 2 years, compiled by his investigators. Nothing suspicious. Nothing at all. That was the problem. "You're obsessing." Marco entered without knocking, closing the door behind him. "It's been a week, Luca. Either she's a threat or she isn't. Make a decision." "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple." Marco sat down across from him. "Look at the facts. She appears out of nowhere, speaking a dialect that only our enemies know. She survives a theft accusation, which I still think she was involved in. Isabella planted that bracelet." Marco's jaw tightened. "You don't know that." "I know Isabella. And I know desperation when I see it." Luca took a drink. Mia was genuinely terrified. Isabella was furious when I didn't punish her. "So, you're defending her now?" "I'm being objective." Lucas set down his glass. "Every instinct I have says Mia Lawson is exactly who she claims to be. A hotel maid who answered the wrong phone at the wrong time." "Then why is she still here?" Because I need to be sure. Marco leaned forward. Listen to yourself. You need to be sure, Luca. You're one of the most decisive men I know. You've made life or death calls in seconds. But this woman, this nobody from nowhere, has you second-guessing everything. He paused. She's too convenient. Your son trusts her. The Baroness are asking questions about her. Hell, even Isabella sees her as competition. Don't you understand? She's bait. Bait for what? For you. Marco's voice was hard. Think about it. A woman shows up who speaks the language, gets into your house, wins over your son. Meanwhile, your enemies circle closer. They know you're distracted. They know you've brought someone new into your inner circle. What better way to get to you than through someone you're starting to trust? Luca's eyes darkened. I don't trust her. You're starting to. I see it. The way you watch her with Matteo. The way you defended her against Isabella. You're letting your guard down, and that's exactly what they want. Before Luca could respond, there was a knock at the door. Rosa poked her head in, looking worried. Mr. Vitali, I'm sorry, but Matteo won't go to bed. He's asking for you. Luca sighed and stood. I'll be right there. He found Matteo in his bedroom, sitting on the edge of his bed in his pajamas, arms crossed defiantly. I'm not tired. It's after midnight, Matteo. You have school tomorrow. I don't care. Matteo's chin jutted out stubbornly. I heard you and Uncle Marco talking about Mia. Luca's entire body tensed. You were eavesdropping. You were being loud. Matteo's eyes filled with tears. Are you going to make her leave? That's not your concern. She's my friend. Matteo's voice cracked. She's the only person here who doesn't treat me like I'm made of glass. Everyone else walks on eggshells, like if they say the wrong thing I'll break. But Mia just talks to me like I'm normal. Luca sat down on the bed beside his son. Matteo, you have to understand. Mia might not be who she says she is. Yes, she is. She's nice and funny, and she tells me about her son, and she doesn't lie to me. Tears streamed down Matteo's face. Everyone always lies. They say everything's going to be okay, but it's not. They say Mom's in a better place, but she's not. She's just gone. But Mia doesn't do that. She tells me the truth. She says it's okay to be sad. The words hit Luca like a physical blow. He pulled his son into his arms, feeling the boy shake with sobs. I know, buddy. I know. Please don't make her go away, Matteo whispered against his father's shoulder. She makes me feel better. Don't you feel better too? Luca didn't answer. He couldn't, because the terrifying truth was yes. He did feel something shift in the house since Mia arrived. Like a window had been opened in a room that had been sealed shut for 3 years. And that scared him more than any threat from the Baroness ever could. After Matteo finally fell asleep, Luca returned to his study. Marco was still there, waiting. Your son is attached to her, Marco said quietly. Which proves my point. She's a perfect infiltration. Come in through the child, get to the father. It's textbook. She didn't come in. I brought her in. Luca rubbed his face. And if she is what you think she is, keeping her close is the smartest move. Better to watch her here than have her running free. And if she's not, if she really is just some innocent woman you're holding prisoner, then she's safer here than out there. If the Baroness thinks she matters to me, they'll use her. Luca met Marco's eyes. Either way, she stays. For now. Marco stood, shaking his head. You're making a mistake. This woman is going to destroy you, either because she's a spy or because you're going to care about her. And caring about people is what gets men like us killed. After Marco left, Luca walked to the window, overlooking the gardens. He could see a light on in the staff quarters, Mia's room. Was she awake too? Worrying about her son? Planning her next move if she was really a plant? Or was she just a terrified woman trapped in a nightmare she couldn't escape? Luca's phone buzzed. A text from one of his contacts. The Baroness are asking around about a woman named Mia Lawson. Thought you should know. Luca stared at the message, his jaw clenching. Marco was right about one thing. Enemies were circling. Whether Mia was bait or victim didn't matter anymore. She was in the middle of a war. And Luca had no idea which side she was really on. Isabella Moretti had never been good at losing. And watching Luca defend that maid, watching his son smile at her, watching the staff whisper about her, it was intolerable. She started small. A comment here, a question there. Have you noticed how she's always nearby when Luca has important calls? Isabella murmured to one of the guards in the kitchen. Almost like she's listening. I saw her texting someone late at night, she told Rosa over coffee, her voice dripping with concern. I'm sure it's innocent, but doesn't Luca have her phone? She asked me about the security system. She lied smoothly to Marco. Wanted to know where all the cameras were. Said she was just curious, but the seeds of doubt spread like poison through the household. Staff who'd been warming up to Mia started watching her with suspicion again. Guards followed her more closely. Even Rosa seemed uncertain. But Isabella wasn't done. 3 nights later, alarms shattered the mansion's silence at 2 a.m. Mia jolted awake in her room as emergency lights flooded the hallways. She heard shouting, running footsteps, the sound of cars peeling out. She threw open her door and nearly collided with a guard. What's happening? Get back inside. Lock your door.
Now.
Mia's heart raced as she obeyed. Through her window, she could see men with flashlights searching the grounds. Police sirens wailed in the distance. It was dawn before anyone told her what happened. Someone broke into the garage, Rosa said quietly, bringing Mia coffee in the staff kitchen. Her face was pale. 3 men. They got past the security system somehow, tried to plant something in Mr. Vitali's cars, probably a tracker or a bomb. Guards caught them before they finished. Mia's hands shook around the coffee cup. Oh my God. Is everyone okay? The intruders got away. But Mr. Vitali, Rosa's voice dropped to a whisper. He's furious. Someone had to have given them the security codes. Someone inside. The implication hung heavy in the air. An hour later, Mia was summoned to Luca's study. The room was packed with his men, Marco, guards, advisors. All of them stared at her with open hostility. And there, sitting on the leather couch like she belonged there, was Isabella. Luca stood by the window, his back to the room. His shoulders were rigid with tension. Mia, he said without turning around. How long have you been working for the Baroness? Her stomach dropped. What? I'm not. The security system was disabled from inside the house. Luca finally turned to face her. His eyes were cold, empty. The breach happened at 2:07 a.m. You know what the cameras show at 2 a.m.? You, walking through the south hallway, near the security panel. I couldn't sleep. I went to get water from the kitchen. The kitchen is in the opposite direction. Marco cut in. I got turned around. This house is huge. I still don't know my way around in the dark. Isabella stood gracefully, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Mia, sweetheart, it's okay. You can tell the truth. Did someone threaten you? Your son, maybe? Is that why you're helping them? I'm not helping anyone. Mia's voice rose in desperation. I don't even know who the Baroness are. I've told you that from the beginning. Then explain this. Marco threw a phone on the desk, a cheap burner phone. We found it hidden in the air vent in your room. It has exactly 3 calls on it. All to known Baron associates. Mia's blood turned to ice. That's not my phone. I've never seen that before in my life. Just like you'd never seen the bracelet? Isabella's voice was soft, deadly. Mia, everyone here wants to believe you. We really do. But you have to admit, the evidence is damning. Luca walked toward Mia slowly. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. My son could have been in that garage. Matteo parks his bike there. If those men had succeeded, his jaw clenched. Tell me the truth, Mia.
Right now.
Did you help them get in? Tears streamed down Mia's face.
No.
I swear to you, I swear on Tyler's life, I would never hurt Matteo. I would never hurt anyone. Someone is setting me up. Who? Why? I don't know. Mia's voice broke. But please, you have to believe me. Enough, Luca turned away. Marco, take her to the basement. Keep her locked up until… No. Everyone spun toward the door. Matteo stood there in his pajamas, his face red and tear-stained. You can't lock her up. She didn't do anything. Matteo, go back to bed. She didn't do it. Matteo ran into the room, placing himself between Mia and the guards. I know she didn't because I was with her. The room went silent. Luca's voice was dangerously quiet. What? I had a nightmare.
About Mom.
I went to find you, but you weren't in your room. So I went to find Mia. Matteo's voice trembled, but he kept going. She was in the kitchen making tea. She sat with me until I felt better. We talked about Mom, and we looked at the stars from the kitchen window. She was with me from 2 o'clock until almost 3 inch. Mia's breath caught. She'd completely forgotten. She'd been so focused on defending herself, she hadn't remembered that Matteo had come to find her. Marco's face darkened. The boy could be confused about the time. I'm not confused, Matteo shouted. I looked at the clock because I was supposed to take my medicine at 2:30 and Mia reminded me. She couldn't have been by the security panel because she was with me. Lucas stared at his son, then at Mia, then slowly turned to Isabella. Something had shifted in his expression. Isabella, he said softly. How did you know Mia was in the south hallway at 2 a.m.? Isabella blinked. What? I never said which hallway she was seen in. I just said she was near the security panel. Luca's eyes narrowed. But you knew exactly where she was. How? The color drained from Isabella's face. I must have heard Marco say. I didn't specify either, Marco said slowly, realization dawning on his face. Matteo pointed at Isabella, his small hand shaking with fury. She's lying. She's the liar, not Mia. She's always been mean to Mia. She's trying to get rid of her. Isabella's composure cracked. That's ridiculous. Luca, you can't possibly believe. Get out. Luca's voice was like ice. Excuse me? Get out of my house. Now he stepped closer to Isabella. And if I find out you had anything to do with planting that phone, with tonight's break-in, with any of this, you'll pray the Baroness find you before I do. Isabella's eyes blazed with fury, but she knew she'd lost. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Luca knelt down in front of his son. You're sure about the time, Matteo? I'm sure, Dad. Mia didn't do anything wrong. She never does. Matteo threw his arms around Mia's waist, sobbing. Don't let them take her away. Luca looked at Mia over his son's head. For the first time since she'd met him, she saw something in his eyes that wasn't suspicion. It was the beginning of trust. After the incident with Isabella, something shifted in the Vitali household. Mia wasn't exactly trusted, but she wasn't treated like a prisoner anymore either. The guards nodded at her in the hallways. Rosa stopped giving her wary looks. Even Marco seemed less hostile. But Luca remained unreadable. A week later, Rosa knocked on Mia's door with an unusual request. Mr. Vitali wants you to serve at dinner tonight. He's hosting his advisors.
Mia has his stomach twisted.
Me? Why? Rosa shrugged. He didn't say. Just asked for you specifically. Wear the formal uniform, the black dress, not the regular 1-inch. That evening, Mia found herself in the mansion's formal dining room, a space she'd only glimpsed while cleaning. The table was set for 8 with crystal glasses and fine china. Oil paintings of Italian landscapes lined the walls. The men began arriving at 7. Older men in expensive suits, carrying themselves with the kind of authority that came from years of power. Mia recognized a few faces from around the mansion, but most were strangers. Lucas sat at the head of the table, looking dangerous in a dark suit. His eyes followed Mia as she poured wine, but he didn't acknowledge her. So, Luca, one of the advisors said, a heavy-set man named Carmine with a thick Brooklyn accent. Word is you had some excitement here last week. The Baroness getting bold. They're getting desperate, Luca corrected, swirling his wine. Desperation makes people stupid. Still, a breach in your security. Another advisor, thin and sharp-featured, shook his head. Makes people nervous. Makes them question things. Question what, Vincent? Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. Leadership. Judgment. Whether certain. Distractions are worth the risk they bring. Mia felt her face flush as she refilled water glasses. She knew exactly what distraction he meant. I deal with risks every day, Luca said coolly. That's what makes me good at this. The conversation turned to business, shipments, territories, money. Mia tried to blend into the background, bringing out courses and refilling drinks. She caught Matteo peeking through the doorway once and gave him a small wave before he disappeared. After the main course, Carmine leaned back in his chair, gesturing with his wine glass. You know what my grandfather used to say? Ci dorm non piglia pesci, the early bird catches the worm. That's why we need to move on the Baroness now, while they're weak. Luca's expression didn't change, but Mia noticed his fingers tighten slightly around his fork. Your grandfather was a wise man, Luca said smoothly. Though, I think you might have that saying a little wrong. Carmine frowned. What? The proverb. I don't think that's quite right. Luca glanced at Mia, who was clearing plates. Mia, you speak Italian. What does ci dorm non piglia pesci mean? Every eye in the room turned to her. Mia froze, a plate halfway to her chest. She swallowed hard. It means he who sleeps doesn't catch fish. It's more like, you snooze, you lose, not really about the early bird. Carmine's face reddened. That's what I said. No, you said it means the early bird catches the worm, Mia said before she could stop herself. That's a different saying. Ci dorm non piglia pesci is about staying alert and active. It's not about timing, it's about constant effort. The silence in the room was deafening. Vincent set down his fork slowly. Did a maid just correct Carmine Romano? I wasn't correcting, I was just explaining. Mia's voice faltered. You were correcting. Carmine stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. Luca, are you going to let your help embarrass your advisors? She answered my question, Luca said calmly. I asked what the proverb meant. She told me. She made me look like a fool. You made yourself look like a fool by misquoting it. Luca's voice carried an edge now. Sit down, Carmine. This is exactly what we're talking about. Vincent gestured at Mia. You bring this woman into your home, give her access to everything, and now she's correcting men who've served this family for 30 years? It's disrespectful. What's disrespectful? Luca said, his voice dropping dangerously low, is pretending to know something you don't. Mia speaks better Italian than half the men in this room. That's not her fault. She's a nobody. Carmine spat. A hotel maid who got lucky. Enough, Luca stood. Mia, translate this. La vendetta è un piatto che va servito freddo. Mia's hands shook. Revenge is a dish best served cold. And this. Fidarsi è bene, non fidarsi è meglio. Trust is good, but not trusting is better. Luca fired off 3 more proverbs in rapid Italian, each one more complex than the last. Mia translated them all perfectly, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. When she finished, Luca turned to his advisors. She's fluent. Native-level fluency, which means either she learned it growing up or someone spent years training her to infiltrate my organization. I've had her background checked by 4 different sources. Her story holds up. Her grandmother was from Corleone, immigrated in '62, raised Mia speaking Sicilian. Or that's what they want you to believe, Vincent argued. If the Baroness had an agent this good, they'd have used her years ago, not waited until she was a struggling single mother working minimum wage. Luca's gaze swept the room. I don't trust easily. You all know that. But I trust evidence. And all the evidence says Mia Lawson is exactly who she claims to be. Then why keep her here? Carmine demanded. If she's not a threat, let her go. Because the Baroness thinks she matters to me. Which makes her a target. Luca sat back down. She's safer here. Mia felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them back. She wouldn't cry in front of these men. Marco, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. There's another reason to keep her close. He looked at Luca meaningfully. Matteo. The other advisors shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew about Matteo, the sad, withdrawn boy who'd lost his mother too young. The kid smiles now, Marco continued. First time in 3 years. That's worth something. Vincent scoffed. We're not running a charity, Marco. No, we're running a family business, Luca cut him off. And Matteo is my family. My only family. If Mia helps him heal, that's not charity. That's survival. The advisors exchanged glances, but no one argued further. As the dinner ended and the men filed out, Carmine stopped beside Mia in the hallway. You made an enemy tonight, girl. Watch yourself. After everyone left, Mia was cleaning up the dining room when Luca appeared in the doorway. You corrected Carmine Romano, he said. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Don't apologize, Luca walked to the window. He was wrong. And he's been getting sloppy lately, making mistakes. You just exposed one of them. I didn't mean to embarrass anyone. I know, Luca turned to look at her. That's the difference between you and everyone else in this house. You tell the truth without thinking about the angles. In my world, that's either incredibly stupid or incredibly rare. Which one do you think I am? Luca studied her for a long moment. I'm starting to think you're just honest, which might be the most dangerous thing of all. He left without another word, leaving Mia alone in the dining room, wondering if she'd just passed a test or failed one. Mia was helping Matteo with his homework in the library when she noticed he seemed distracted. He'd been staring at the same math problem for 10 minutes, his pencil hovering over the page without writing anything. Hey, she said gently. What's wrong? Is it the fractions? Because I know those can be tricky. I heard something, Matteo blurted out, his voice barely above a whisper. He glanced at the door nervously. Something bad. Mia's stomach tightened. What do you mean? Matteo put down his pencil, his hands shaking slightly. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I went to get some water, and I heard Uncle Marco on the phone in Dad's study. The door was open a little bit. Matteo, you shouldn't eavesdrop. I wasn't trying to, but I heard him say, the boy's eyes filled with tears. He said it was time to take the throne, that Dad was getting weak, that he was making mistakes. Mia's blood ran cold. Are you sure that's what you heard? Yes. And he said something about removing the problem soon. What if he means Dad? Matteo grabbed Mia's hand. What if Uncle Marco wants to hurt him? Mia's mind raced. Marco was Luca's most trusted advisor, had been at his side for years. But she'd also seen the looks he gave her, the suspicion, the disapproval. And he'd been the one pushing hardest to get rid of her. Matteo, this is serious. You need to tell your father. I can't. Matteo's voice cracked. What if I'm wrong? What if I misheard? Uncle Marco would be so mad at me. But what if you're right? Matteo looked torn, scared. Will you tell him? Please? Dad listens to you now. He won't think I'm making it up if you tell him. Mia hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, another setup, another way to make her look like she was spreading lies. But looking at Matteo's terrified face, she knew she couldn't stay silent. Okay, she said quietly. I'll tell him. That evening, Mia waited until Luca was alone in his study. She knocked softly, her heart pounding. Come in. Luca was at his desk, reviewing documents. He looked tired, the lines around his eyes deeper than usual.
Mia.
What is it? I need to talk to you about something. Something Matteo heard. Luca's attention sharpened immediately. Is he okay?
He's fine.
But he's worried. About you. Mia closed the door behind her and stepped closer. Last night, he overheard Marco on the phone. In here. Matteo was eavesdropping. He couldn't sleep, came to get water. He said he heard Marco say, Mia took a breath. He heard him say it was time to take the throne, that you were getting weak, that there was a problem that needed to be removed soon. The silence that followed was suffocating. Luca stood slowly, his expression unreadable. And Matteo told you this?
Yes.
He was scared to tell you himself. He thought you might not believe him. But he thought I'd believe you. There was something dangerous in Luca's tone. Mia's mouth went dry. He trusts me. How convenient. Luca walked around his desk, moving closer to her. My son overhears a conversation about betrayal. And instead of coming to me, his father, he goes to you. The woman who appeared out of nowhere 6 weeks ago. He was scared. And you expect me to believe that my oldest friend, my most loyal advisor, just happened to be discussing treason where a 9-year-old could overhear him? Luca's eyes were ice cold now. While you just happened to be the one Matteo confided in? I know how it sounds. It sounds like you're trying to turn me against Marco. Drive a wedge between me and the one man who's never betrayed me. Luca's jaw clenched. And why would he confess only to you, Mia? Why would this information come from you and no one else? Because Matteo heard it. I'm just telling you what he told me. Or you're manipulating a traumatized child to feed me false information. Luca's voice was deadly quiet. That's what an infiltrator would do. Get close to the kid, gain his trust, then use him to destabilize the organization from within. Tears stung Mia's eyes. I would never use Matteo like that. Never. Everyone says that. Until they do, Luca turned away from her. Get out. Mr. Vitali, please. I said get out. Mia fled the study, her vision blurred with tears. She ran straight to her room and collapsed on the bed, sobbing. Every time she thought she was making progress, something happened to drag her back to square one. Luca would never trust her. Never. But after Mia left, Luca stood alone in his study, staring at nothing. He wanted to dismiss what she'd said. Wanted to believe it was manipulation, lies, another attempt to get under his skin. Marco had been with him for 15 years. They'd built this empire together. Marco had held Luca together when Maria died, had helped raise Matteo, had never given him a reason to doubt.
But
Luca thought back over the past few months. Small things that hadn't seemed significant at the time. Marco pushing harder than usual on certain decisions. Private phone calls he'd ended abruptly when Luca entered the room. The way he'd been so adamant about getting rid of Mia, even when evidence suggested she was innocent. And then there was the dinner with the advisors. The way Carmine and Vincent had questioned Luca's judgment so openly. They'd never done that before.
never challenged him like that.
Unless someone had encouraged them to. Luca pulled out his phone and sent a text to his most trusted security specialist, someone outside the normal chain of command. I need surveillance on Marco Russo. Everything. Phone records, meetings, contacts. Total discretion. Report only to me. He set down the phone, feeling sick. If Mia was playing him, if she was using his son to spread lies, he'd make her pay. But if she was telling the truth, if Marco really was planning something. There was another knock at his door. Come in. Matteo peeked around the doorframe, his eyes red from crying. Dad, can I talk to you? Luca's heart clenched. Of course. Come here. Matteo ran to him, and Luca pulled his son into his arms. I'm sorry, Matteo sobbed. I should have told you myself. But I was scared you'd be mad at me. I'm not mad at you, buddy. Never. Luca held him tighter. Tell me exactly what you heard. Every word you can remember. Through hiccuping sobs, Matteo repeated the conversation. The words were the same ones Mia had reported, almost verbatim. When Matteo finished, Luca wiped his son's tears. You did the right thing telling Mia. And she did the right thing telling me. You believe us. Luca looked into his son's eyes that looked so much like Maria's. I believe you, Matteo. Always. After Matteo went to bed, Luca sat alone in the darkness of his study. The seed of doubt had been planted. And like all seeds, it would either grow into truth or poison everything around it. He just had to figure out which one it was before it was too late. The Chicago Northside Summit was held once a year in a neutral location, a historic hotel that had hosted 5 generations of family business. It was where disputes were settled, territories were negotiated, and alliances were formed or broken. Violence at the summit was forbidden by old laws that even the most ruthless families respected, which made it the perfect place for an assassination. Luca had debated bringing Matteo at all, but the boy had begged. All the other kids get to go. Uncle Tommy brought his son last year. Please, Dad. It's not a place for children, Matteo. But I'm 9 now. And you always say I need to understand the family business. Matteo had looked up at him with those eyes that were so much like Maria's. Please? I'll be good. I'll stay quiet. So Luca had agreed, with one condition. Mia would come as Matteo's companion. She would sit with him in the back of the room, keep him occupied, and remove him immediately if anything went wrong. This is a mistake, Marco had said when he heard. Bringing the boy is bad enough. But bringing her? She stays with Matteo. Luca had replied firmly. Nowhere near the negotiations. She's just there to watch my son. Now, standing in the grand ballroom of the Lexington Hotel, Luca wondered if Marco had been right. The room was filled with dangerous men, heads of families from across the Midwest, their advisors, their guards. The Baroness were here, sitting across the room with cold, calculating eyes. The Russos, the Castellanos, all of them watching, waiting, looking for weakness. Mia sat in the back row with Matteo, both of them dressed formally. The boy wore a small suit that made him look older than his years. Mia wore a simple black dress that Rosa had loaned her. She looked nervous, out of place. Luca forced himself to focus on the meeting. Territory disputes were discussed. A shipping conflict was resolved. Money changed hands through carefully worded agreements. Then Vincent Barone stood to speak. He was younger than most family heads, mid-40s, with slicked-back hair and a politician's smile. He raised his glass for a toast. Amici, he began, his voice carrying across the room. Friends, we gather here tonight under the old traditions.
La famiglia è tutto. Family is everything.
But we must also remember, in tempi difficili, solo I 40 sopravvivono. In difficult times, only the strong survive. Standard rhetoric. Luca half listened, his mind on the surveillance report he'd received that morning. Marco's phone records showed 3 calls to unknown numbers. Could mean nothing. Could mean everything. Vincent continued his toast, weaving Italian phrases throughout. Ci va piano va sano e va lontano. Slow and steady wins the race. But tonight, friends, I propose we think differently. La notte porta consiglio. Night brings counsel. Sometimes, the darkness shows us truths we cannot see in daylight. A few men nodded. Others raised their glasses. E volti, Vincent said with a smile. La mort arriva quando meno ti lo aspetti. Sometimes death comes when you least expect it.
Prima dell'alba.
Before dawn.
Quando le stelle cadono.
When the stars fall. More nods. More raised glasses. It was flowery language, the kind of philosophical nonsense men said at these summits. But in the back of the room, Mia had gone rigid. Matteo whispered, "What's wrong?" Mia's mind raced, her grandmother's voice echoing in her head. Those phrases, they weren't random. They weren't philosophy. Her grandmother had taught her about the old codes, the ways families sent messages in plain sight.
La morte arriva, det comes.
Prima dell'alba, before dawn.
Tonight.
Before morning.
Quando le stelle cadono, when the stars fall.
The chandelier. The massive crystal chandelier hanging directly above Luca's table. Oh my God, Mia breathed. E così, Vincent concluded, raising his glass higher. Brindiamo a coloro che cadranno stasera. We toast to those who will fall tonight. May they fall. Gracefully. The room erupted in polite applause. Mia shot to her feet. Stop. Every head in the ballroom turned. Conversations died. The applause cut off like someone had flipped a switch. Luca's eyes found hers across the room, his expression thunderous.
Mia.
They're plotting to kill you tonight. The words burst out of her. The toast, it wasn't a toast, it was a code. He said death comes before dawn when the stars fall. He means the chandelier. They're going to drop the chandelier on you. Silence gripped the room like a vice. Vincent Barone's face remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes. The woman is hysterical. Someone remove her. She speaks Italian, Marco said quietly from beside Luca. His face had gone pale. Native level. If she says it was code, Luca stood slowly, his eyes never leaving Vincent. Explain your toast, Barone. It was just words. Poetry. She's paranoid.
La morte arriva prima dell'alba quando le stelle cadono. Luca repeated slowly.
Death comes before dawn when the stars fall. That's very specific poetry. Security guards moved toward Vincent's table. One of the Barone men reached for his jacket. Don't, Luca's voice cracked like a whip. 20 guards drew weapons simultaneously, all pointed at the Barone table. Everyone stays very, very still. Luca looked up at the chandelier above his head, a massive crystal fixture that must have weighed 300 pounds. He gestured to his men. Check it. 2 guards climbed ladders to examine the mounting. Within seconds, one of them called down. Boss. The bolts have been loosened. There's a remote trigger attached. The room exploded into chaos. Men jumped to their feet. Guards surrounded their bosses. The Baroness tried to flee, but Luca's men blocked every exit. Nobody moves. Luca's voice cut through the noise. He turned to Vincent, his eyes blazing with cold fury. You violated the sanctity of the summit. You tried to murder me on neutral ground. You have no proof I was involved. Your toast was the signal. Luca walked toward Vincent slowly, like a predator stalking prey. You told your people when to trigger it. When the stars fall, you are going to drop that chandelier the moment you finish speaking. Marco stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. Who else is involved? Who helped you get in here, plant the device? Vincent's eyes darted to someone across the room. And Luca saw it. The look, the signal, the confirmation. His blood turned to ice as he followed Vincent's gaze to the person standing near the back exit. Not one of the Baroness. Someone from his own organization. Someone he trusted.
No, Luca breathed.
Because standing there, with guilt written across his face and his hand on his concealed weapon, was Marco Russo. His uncle, his right hand, his oldest friend. The man was already planning to run. Matteo's warning had been true all along. Everything happened at once. Marco's hand reached inside his jacket. Luca's guards raised their weapons. Vincent Barone dove behind a table, and Mia grabbed Matteo, pulling him down behind a row of chairs. Don't. Luca's voice cut through the chaos. Marco, don't do this. Marco froze, his hand still inside his jacket. His face was a mask of conflict, 15 years of loyalty warring with whatever decision he'd made. I didn't want it to be like this, Luca. Then how did you want it to be? Luca's voice was deadly calm, but his hands trembled with rage. A chandelier crushing me while my son watched? Was that the plan? Matteo was supposed to be in the back. Away from the blast zone, Marco's voice cracked. I made sure of that. I would never hurt the boy. But you'd kill his father. Luca took a step forward. Why, Marco? After everything we built together. Because you're not the same man anymore. Marco's composure shattered. Maria's death broke something in you. You've been making careless decisions, trusting the wrong people. Bringing that woman into our home. He gestured toward Mia. She's made you weak. She just saved my life. She's a distraction. The families are circling Luca. They see weakness. They see a man more concerned with his dead wife's memory and his son's happiness than with protecting his empire. Marco's voice grew desperate. I was trying to save us. Take over before everything collapsed. The others agreed. Vincent, Carmine, even Isabella. Isabella, Luca's eyes narrowed. So she was part of this. She approached me months ago. Said you were slipping. Said the organization needed new leadership. Marco pulled his hand from his jacket. No weapon, just empty palms raised in surrender. She had access to your house, your schedule, your security codes. She made it possible. The pieces clicked into place. The planted bracelet. The phone in Mia's room. The break-in at the garage. Isabella had orchestrated everything, trying to frame Mia, trying to push Luca into making a fatal mistake. And Marco had helped her do it. Where is she? Luca demanded.
Here.
She's here. Marco's shoulders sagged. She was supposed to leave before the chandelier dropped. Make sure she had an alibi. Luca barked orders to his men. Find Isabella Moretti.
Now.
Lock down every exit. Guards scattered. In the back of the room, Mia held Matteo close, the boy's face buried in her shoulder. She met Luca's eyes across the chaos, and he saw something there. Not triumph that she'd been right, but sadness. Sadness that betrayal had touched his life again. Vincent Barone tried to slip toward a side door. This doesn't concern me anymore. Sit down. Luca didn't even look at him. You think I'm letting any of you walk out of here? 2 guards dragged Vincent back to his chair. The other families watched in stunned silence, knowing they were witnessing something historic. The violent collapse of an alliance, the exposure of a coup. One of Luca's men returned, dragging Isabella by the arm. She was dressed immaculately, her makeup perfect, but her eyes blazed with fury. Let go of me. Luca, tell them. Tell them what, Isabella? Luca's voice was ice. Tell them how you tried to have me killed. Tell them how you betrayed me with my own second-in-command. Isabella's composure cracked. You left me no choice. You replaced me with her. She pointed at Mia with venom. Some nobody maid who speaks Italian? You threw away what we had for that. What we had. Luca laughed bitterly. We had nothing, Isabella. You wanted access to my power, my money, my name. You wanted to be the next Mrs. Vitali, so you could control everything. But I never loved you. You knew that. Because you're too busy mourning a ghost. Isabella's voice turned shrill. Maria has been dead for 3 years, Luca. When will you let her go? When I'm ready. Which is none of your concern. Luca nodded to Marco. You two deserve each other. Both willing to destroy everything for power. I was trying to save the organization, Marco insisted. The Baroness offered a merger. Unite the families, become the strongest force in the Midwest. But they wanted you gone first. It was nothing personal. Nothing personal? Luca's voice rose. You tried to kill me in front of my son. I told you Matteo was supposed to be safe. He was supposed to grow up without a father. Luca roared. Again. You would have made him an orphan. Matteo's sobs echoed from the back of the room. Mia held him tighter, whispering comfort. The rage that crossed Luca's face was terrifying. He turned to Vincent Barone. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take your family and leave Chicago. Tonight. If I ever see you in this city again, I'll kill every last one of you. You can't exile an entire family. Watch me. Luca's voice was absolute. And you can thank Mia Lawson for your lives. Because if that chandelier had dropped, if my son had been hurt, I would have burned your family to the ground. Vincent fled without another word, his men following. Luca turned to Isabella. You're finished. No family will touch you after this. You violated the summit, conspired with enemies, and failed. You're dead to this world. Isabella's face crumpled. Luca, please. Get her out of my sight. As guards dragged Isabella away, she screamed threats and curses. But no one listened. She'd gambled everything and lost. Finally, Luca faced Marco, the man who'd been his brother in everything but blood. I should kill you. I know. But I won't. Because Maria loved you. Because Matteo called you uncle. Because 15 years means something, even if you forgot that. Luca's voice broke slightly. You're exiled. Leave the country. If you ever come back, if I ever hear your name again, I'll finish this. Marco nodded, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Luca. I thought I was doing the right thing. You thought you were doing the profitable thing. There's a difference. As Marco was led away in handcuffs, bound for a one-way flight to somewhere far from Chicago, Luca stood alone in the center of the destroyed summit. Other families filed out quietly, knowing this night would be spoken about for years. Luca walked to the back of the room, where Mia still held his sobbing son. Come here, Matteo, he said gently. The boy ran to him, and Luca lifted him into his arms despite his age, holding him like he had when Matteo was small. Over his son's shoulder, Luca looked at Mia. You saved my life, he said simply. Mia stood on shaking legs. I recognized the code. My grandmother taught me. You trusted your instincts. Even knowing everyone would think you were crazy. Luca's voice was thick with emotion. You risked everything to warn me. Of course I did. Mia's eyes filled with tears. You're Matteo's father. He needs you. The simplicity of that statement, the absolute truth of it, hit Luca like a physical blow. This woman, who owed him nothing, who he'd held prisoner and suspected of betrayal, had saved his life without hesitation. Because his son needed him. Let's go home, Luca said quietly. And for the first time since Maria died, the word home didn't feel empty. 3 days after the summit, Luca called a meeting of his entire organization. Every guard, every advisor, every associate who worked for the Vitali family was summoned to the mansion's great hall. Word had spread about what happened, the betrayal, the attempted assassination, the exile of Marco Russo. But no one knew what came next. Mia stood in the back of the room with Rosa, trying to be invisible. Matteo sat in the front row, dressed in a suit, looking small and scared among all the dangerous men. Luca entered, and the room fell silent. He looked different, harder somehow, but also lighter, like a weight had been lifted. He stood at the front of the room, his hands clasped behind his back. Most of you know what happened at the summit, he began, his voice carrying through the hall. My most trusted advisor tried to have me killed. My former mistress conspired against me. They believed I was weak, that I'd lost my edge. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. They were wrong, Luca's voice hardened. But they weren't entirely wrong about everything. I have changed since my wife died. I became suspicious of everyone, trusted no one, built walls so high that I couldn't see threats coming from inside my own circle. He paused, his eyes scanning the room. But there was one person who saw what none of you could. One person who recognized a coded threat that would have killed me. One person who risked being called crazy, being thought a liar, being thrown out, just to save my life. Luca turned and gestured toward the back. Mia Lawson, come here. Mia's heart stopped. Every eye in the room turned to her. Rosa gave her a gentle push forward. On trembling legs, Mia walked through the crowd. She could feel their stares, some curious, some hostile, some approving. When she reached the front, Luca extended his hand. She took it, and he pulled her to stand beside him. 6 weeks ago, this woman answered a phone in a hotel room, Luca said. She spoke in a dialect that made me suspicious. I brought her here. I interrogated her. I watched her. I tested her. His grip on her hand tightened. I accused her of being a spy, of being a thief, of working for my enemies. The room was silent. She was none of those things. She was a hotel maid who learned Italian from her grandmother. A single mother working 2 jobs to support her son. A woman who got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Luca's voice grew stronger. And despite everything I put her through, the suspicion, the accusations, being held against her will, she never stopped telling the truth. She never stopped being kind to my son. And when it mattered most, she saved my life. Mia felt tears building but blinked them back. I've been in this business for 20 years, Luca continued. I've met liars, manipulators, people who smile while planning your death. I thought I could spot them all. But I was looking for the wrong things. I was so busy watching for deception that I nearly missed something I haven't seen in 3 years. He turned to look at Mia. Genuine goodness. Carmine, one of the remaining advisors, stood. With all respect, boss, what are you saying? I'm saying this woman saw what none of you could. She understood a code that could have gone over our heads. She warned me even though she knew I might not believe her. Luca faced his organization. The only one I trust completely, in this language and in my life, is her. Shocked silence filled the room. Then, slowly, one guard began to clap. Then another. Within seconds, the entire room erupted in applause. Matteo jumped from his seat and ran to them, throwing his arms around both Mia and his father. Does this mean Mia can stay forever? Luca knelt down to his son's level. Would you like that?
Yes.
She makes everything better. She makes us feel like a family again. Luca looked up at Mia, and for the first time since she'd met him, his expression was completely open. No walls, no guards, no suspicion. Just a man who'd been alone too long. Finally letting someone in. I can't replace Maria, Mia said quietly. I would never try. I don't want you to replace her, Luca stood, still holding Matteo's hand. Maria will always be part of our family. But she's gone. And Matteo and I. We've been living like ghosts for 3 years. You reminded us what it's like to be alive. So, she can stay? Matteo asked hopefully. She can stay, Luca's voice was firm. Not as a maid. Not as a prisoner. As family. Mia's tears finally fell. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Matteo urged. Mia looked at the boy who'd trusted her from the beginning, then at the man who'd learned to trust her despite everything. She thought about Tyler, who'd love having Matteo as a brother. She thought about how terrified she'd been 6 weeks ago, and how different everything was now. Yes, she whispered. Luca pulled both of them into his arms, and for the first time in 3 years, his house felt like a home. The organization erupted in applause again. Rosa wiped tears from her eyes. Even the hardest guards looked moved. As the meeting ended, and people filed out, Mia heard them talking. Did you see the boss smile? First time in years. That woman's got courage, I'll give her that. The kid looks happy. That's what matters. Luca kept his hand on Mia's shoulder as they walked back toward the house, Matteo between them chattering excitedly about Tyler coming to visit that weekend. You know what this means, right? Luca said quietly to Mia. Once word gets out that you're under my protection, truly under it, you'll have enemies. People will try to use you to get to me. I know. You'll have to learn how to protect yourself. How to spot threats. How to survive in this world. I'm not afraid, Mia said. And she realized it was true. Not anymore. Luca stopped walking and turned to face her. Why not? Because I have something worth protecting now. Mia looked at Matteo, then back at Luca. A family. Something shifted in Luca's eyes. A crack in the last wall he'd been holding up. He opened his mouth to say something, then closed it, seemingly unable to find words. Matteo grinned up at both of them. Can we have pizza for dinner? To celebrate. Pizza sounds perfect, Luca said, his voice thick with emotion. As they walked into the mansion together, Mia glanced back at the room full of dangerous men, at the life she'd stumbled into by answering a single phone call. It should have terrified her. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt like she belonged. And in the great hall behind them, the portrait of Maria Vitali seemed to smile down, as if giving her blessing to the woman who'd brought her family back to life.